gonna come. Oh, yes, it is. Then I go to my brother, and I say, brother, have the peace. But he wind up knocking back down on me. There've been times that I thought I couldn't last so long. But now I think I'm able, Father, carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it is, yes it is, yes it is. Said I know that a change is gonna come one day. I know a change gonna come. Yes it is. I know. Said life can be hard. Oh yeah. And times can get rough. But still I know. Still I know a change gonna come.
I want to greet you, shalom, greet you in peace, greet you this morning in love, greet you in salams for those that it's kind of early this morning, and salams, but in particular, I want to talk this morning. My spirit is flexing. I went to bed last evening on a not too good of a note because once again in our community, witnessed another young black man, a black man, being killed by a black man. And I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. So, in particular, this conversation today is directed to black men, not black males. I need to talk to black men this morning. You know, we just went through an election and we voted. But what did we vote for? What did we, in particular, as black people and in particular as black men, what did we get out of it? As a matter of fact, what has we gotten out of most of the recent political actions that are going on? Are we really at the table? Are we really a part of the focus and the agenda? Let me tell you why I'm calling this into question. One is that the lack of our ability to be responsible for the economic development in our community, the educational development and direction, the spiritual direction in our communities and in our homes, the ability to go and sit at the negotiating table on our own behalf. I'm not talking about these individuals that they call in the swamp in D.C. that's supposed to look like us and supposed to think like us, but they don't. Because the real black men in our community are not sitting at the negotiating table that will help develop the economics that's needed in our community, the educational institutions that is needed in our community, and to be quite honest, the spiritual direction of our community. No one is going to respect us until we respect ourselves. And those who supposed to be representing us, these misleaders, know that we are asleep, we are blind, and we are being deaf to the reality of what is going on and what is needed for us in our community at large. You see, they got us running after the shadow while they're in the back room negotiating the deals for their interests and the straw bosses that pull their strings. We sitting out here, we running off of emotion, and we're doing nothing to benefit ourselves, our family, and our community. And it's time now, and I know that many would love to see us unified. But unified behind what? Because our community is not monolithic. Our community is no longer a community and have not been for over 400 years. And speaking on the 400 years, you see very little and you hear very little from our leadership in regards to two things right now. That's very critical and very important, not only for the salvation and the direction of our people and our community, but also very important from a historical standpoint to set the record straight. President Donald Trump signed the bill, and I'm so thankful that he did this. He didn't do it with any fanfare. He didn't do it because people asked him to do it, but he signed the bill, H.R. 1242, to commemorate and celebrate the 400 years of slavery in America. Jubilee 2019 is around the corner. But we hear nothing from our community about the celebration of 400 years of enslavement in America. We hear nothing about this historical legislation that, of course, Tim Kaine, who ran with Hillary Clinton, introduced it in the Senate, and Congressman Smith out of Virginia introduced it in the House, and it was passed. But it was President Trump that took the pen and took it to the paper and made it law and put funding behind it and other things that are being discussed, even a museum to show the 400 years of the contribution of the black man and the black woman and our sojourn here in America for over 400 years. That's one thing that is present right now. And it's biblical because some take issue with it. But if you read Genesis, the 25th chapter, the 13th to the 15th verse, it covers it very precisely. Not only that, but there's some of you who don't think that you have anything to do with biblical scripture. And this conversation is not is not in any way racist, because to be pro-black, you don't have to be anti-white. To be pro-white, you ain't got to be anti-black. To be pro-Indian or Chinese or Japanese or Italian or Polish or whatever your ethnic and your cultural history may be. To be Jewish doesn't mean that you got to be anti-Arab or Muslim. So to be Christian doesn't mean you got to be anti-Hebrew or anything else. See, this is the evil inclinations that is housed in the flesh of humanity that continue to divide the family of the Most High, that continues to divide humanity. And my focus is for all humanity, but in particular this morning, this conversation is directed to the black man. Many talks about Donald Trump being a racist, or Donald Trump being this, or Donald Trump being that. What I'm looking at is the actions that is going on in our community. And in our community all across America, and we are silent about that. It's led by Democratic leadership who have failed us time and time again with their false promises and their rhetoric. That's just a fact. If you ask them where the black man is in their agenda, they can't tell you. And our Congressional Black Caucus, really? It says Black Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus. Mind you, they say black, right? So that means you're supposed to be representing what? Blackness, the issues of black people. They can run and jump in the front line, and I'll say this to anybody. Everyone should have an opportunity to come to this country because by choice, but we didn't choose. Our forefathers didn't choose to come here. We were brought here against our will and stripped of everything that we were and everything that we believed in. But that being said, but our Congressional Black Caucus, they run to the front line of immigration, ran to the front line, but they opposed prison reform bill. Think about this. They opposed the prison reform bill signed by President Bill Clinton, to which Bill Clinton came back later, years later, but millions of families had already been destroyed by this crime bill. Those in my family have been affected and destroyed. My mother, my father, my brothers, and my sister were all in the penal institutions, and I have a brother that remains in the prison institutions and been there for 35 to life plus 35 years. And my brother, 1 year older than me, died in the prison penal institution. And my father spent many of his days fathering me in the visiting hall. My mother in the visiting hall of the penal institution when I had to go see them and cry that I had to leave them behind in the hellholes of America. So when you talk about this not being for prison reform and you supposed to be a black misleader, that's what you are to me. Because that means that you do not have the ability to understand that regardless if Donald Trump spilled rhetoric that we may disagree with, but your point is you have to go and sit down at the negotiating table for the interests of our community. Regardless, you got to fight for us till there's no fight in you. But you can fight for immigration. You can fight for gay rights. You can fight for the environmental community. You can fight for these special interest groups that's pumping millions of dollars year in and year out into your campaign war chest. But you can't fight for the people that you say and claim that you represent. I have a problem with that. Congressional Black Caucus is what they're called. So when I look at this and I hear this rhetoric about Democrats and Republicans, let me be very honest with you, and Malcolm X said it very best. You know, what sense does it make for us to continue to vote for people that continue to fail for us? We have to now put ourselves into a position that we can balance our power, and we can use our balance of our power and the ingenuity that we have today and the wisdom of those that we have in our community. And we need to develop our community. We need to develop an economic agenda for our community and an education agenda, and that's what we need to fight. And if anybody wants our vote going forward, there should be a price tag attached to our vote. Yeah, they run this rhetoric about racism. Racism has always been around. Racism and discrimination and self-hatred and evil and wickedness has always been there from the first two brothers, Cain and Abel, who fought each other and came from the same father and the same mother. So that kind of evil inclination housed in the flesh of humanity is nothing that we have never endured before that we can't handle today. We got the stripes, the bag of t-shirts and everything else. The fact of the matter is, we are not at the negotiating table. The black man and his interest is not at the negotiating table. I'm not talking about black males, and I'm not talking about these squares that's from these bourgeois community and these so-called elitists. Not white elitists, you got black elitists. This classism that exists, and even in the black community, for those who claim they so educated, and all you are is educated in one thought. You got a master's degree in one thought. There's 63,000 thoughts that come in the human mind throughout the course of the day. You master just one, and you think you better than us. The masses of us that they walk by and they see in the black community sleeping under bridges, sleeping in abandoned cars, homeless. Do you know that the shame of this, Atlanta is controlled, the council is controlled, for an example, by blacks. But do you know that you need a license, permit in the city of Atlanta to go under the bridge and feed homeless people? I repeat that again. A church just can't, or somebody that's feeling good this morning and want to go and feed the hungry, the poor, the suffering. Do you know that in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, that gave us Dr. King in the civil rights movement back in the day? But do you know these people today passed a law in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, that to feed some homeless people who don't have no food, don't have no blankets, and it's cold outside right now, that you need a permit to pull up your car to just give them a bologna sandwich. Think on that for a minute. That we have become that ignorant to our duty as human beings, and our duty to be able to really support and care for the least among us, that you got to go and pay $50 to $100 for a permit to feed one homeless person. You can't even come out your store. You can't even come out of a restaurant technically and with your doggy bag and give them the doggy bag, because if the police see you, they can give you a summons because you have broken a city ordinance that was recently passed here in the city of Atlanta, Georgia. You see, I'm telling you, man, it's time that we take control of our own destiny. Real change has to take place. It's time that we come forward. We want to stop gentrification in our community. And so they knocked Kanye West. But Kanye at least had the balls to go and sit with Donald Trump. And all these people are sitting with Donald Trump. Either they sitting openly and broadcasting it, or they sitting behind the scenes with Donald Trump. That's right, they in bed with Republicans. But we suffering. And now we just voted. And where's our deal? Politics today is nothing but a deal. Every deal has to be cut. So when Donald Trump goes to the evangelical community, he cut a deal. To do what? To appoint conservatives to the Supreme Court. When Donald Trump go to the Jewish community and the state of Israel, he does what? He cut a deal with the Jewish community to get their support. What do you think about this here? When go back and look at the history of this country, or you just go to Netflix or on demand and look at the movie The Gangs in New York, when you had the Irish and the Polish gangs up in Boston and Massachusetts and upstate New York, and they were battling with each other. But what did they do? Taxation without representation is dead. They were able to take control of the political operations when they became more sophisticated. And what did they do then? Then they were able to elect people. Then what did they do? Their ghettos, what did they do? They turned it around. How did they do it? They used tax dollars. When Italian Americans came here over into New York, and they saw the Statue of Liberty, and they checked in Liberty Park and checked into Jersey City to become U.S. citizens. What did they do? Do you honestly believe that Cuomo on CNN and his brother is the governor of New York? Check their family history 2 and 3 generations ago. They came from Italy, settled in America, used American system to do what? Uplift their family and their community. You know, the U.S. government gives to Israel, and I love Israel. Israel is one of the most beautiful and most spiritual places on this planet. And when I travel to Israel, I just pick up a rented car and I go from Galilee down to Haran and to Jericho and into Jerusalem and to Tiberias. I just love that land, as I do most of Africa, because Israel is only in Northeast Africa. But the point I'm making is the U.S. government in the past 3 decades, have given the state of Israel, for the Holocaust alone, $234 billion. Now, we ain't had nothing to do with the Holocaust, but we paid a hell of a cost here in America. And Trump just signed H.R. 1242 that recognizes and acknowledges our 400 years of enslavement in America. But where are we at, black man, to not only applaud him for that, but to take advantage of the funding and the resources and to be able to galvanize those of us in our community who have the ability to help spread this historical moment a whole year. So we don't have to look to February to celebrate Black history. In 2019, a whole year that even Ghana's president has apologized for selling us into slavery 400 years. Ghana is celebrating a whole year in 2019. Kenya, Nigeria, all through the continent is recognizing and coming in line with Genesis, the 25th chapter, the 13th to the 15th verse. Even Donald Trump and the agriculture secretary just appointed the individuals that will sit on the commission for the 400-year commemoration of African American slavery in America, and we sitting here and we out of the loop because these misleaders are on to something else in their congressional black leadership or our local leadership. So they just want us to continue to be hungry, and they eating. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they sit in the back room with Donald Trump. Just Google the pictures. You see them drinking wine together. But you sitting out here, yeah, we hate Trump. We hate Trump. No. It's about us loving ourselves and getting our cut. Because everybody is doing nothing but cutting deals, and everybody is at the negotiating table. Let me hip you to something else. Donald Trump is not a politician. That's the first thing we need to understand. He only ran for 1 year running for office, beat everybody's behind. That's what he did. And he's the president of these United States. One thing these people respect and understand is the power of that Oval Office. It's the most powerful seat in the world. Think on that for a moment. So I've come to you this morning because we got to rethink this thing. We have to be objective in our thinking. We have to balance our power. And we got to get our cut. And if they ain't going to give us our cut, then we'll cut ourselves in by cutting them out. And that's what we got to do. Now, all this other stuff, you can have that. Because you can call me whatever you want to call me. Because you ain't going to put your hands on me. But when we look at this prison reform, and we look at H.R. 1242, and our leadership is not supporting it, there's a problem. All they want us to do is believe and just hold on to a hate and racism and emotionalism and don't think objectively, but they getting their cut. They cutting their deals. It's time for us to cut them out and cut our own. We gotta be at the negotiating table. You may not like me. You're sitting on that other side of the table. You may not like me. But you got to deal with me. But if I'm not in the room, you ain't got to deal with me. We not in the room. We not in the room. We got to be in the room. So, we got to get in the room, partner. 2 years is a long time. And they just want you to just hold on to that. Yeah, what happened in this midterm was supposed to happen. Ain't nothing new for us. Democratic Party, if you go to a black man and say, where's the agenda for me? What you got planned for me? What you offering me? They can't tell you. Oh yeah, we support prison reform, but they just oppose prison reform that Donald Trump put in. Oh, we support your history, but they ain't said a word about 2019 Jubilee and the historical opportunities for black people to once in America to accept and recognize our contributions in building this country. They ain't said a word. They ain't talk about one conference, one celebration. And H.R. 1242 calls for celebration in every city, every country, every city, every county, and every state in this union. And provide funding for it. But we don't hear that from Hollywood. We don't hear that from these misleaders. We don't hear any of that. There's always something. But then they can jump in the front line for everybody else but us. I'm not saying I agree with the rhetoric that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. At times, that's Donald Trump. Anybody that knows him, hey, that's Trump. He can be arrogant. He can be egotistic. That's Trump. That ain't never changed with Donald. But the fact of the matter is, he's a deal maker. He respects real deals, not chump change. He respects real deals. We need to cut our deal. We need a new deal, Black America. I'm sick of this leftover agenda from the 60s. I ain't trying to ride in the front or the back of the bus. I'm trying to own the bus company. We want that paper just like everybody else. That's how we end gentrification. Things you do with gentrification is like, for an example, the other day, Kanye West, you may not even know this. He's talking about rebuilding the whole community that was just burnt down in California. He got a section, he's buying it to redo it. Same thing in Chicago, and to bring Adidas in. Y'all kick a young brother like that to the curb because he don't support your political agenda. We're not monolithic. And to be very honest, I don't give a damn what you think about me at this point because you don't do nothing for me. I do for myself and my family and those that are around me. And that's the page we got to be on, brothers and sisters. So what I witnessed and what I seen on the news again last evening is very disturbing. And we got to stop this killing that we doing to each other in our community. And we got to get our cut like everybody else. If we stay away from the negotiating table, we will get nothing. And I'm sick of these false promises. It's over. It's a new day for us. And that's the page we got to be on. So I want to thank those of you who happen to be up just as early this morning on a Sunday morning as myself. But it's time that we do something for ourselves. And it's time that we organize, we mobilize, and we wake up. God bless you. Have a great day today. And I pray that it's something that I said will carry you far beyond this dispensation in time. And may God bless each and every one of you. May YAH continue to shine his light and his glory upon you. This is your brother, Emmanuel SHAHID bin Avraham. Take care. Peace and blessings.
Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all, just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Moses sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, they woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots we on the ground, the camera fanned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we